Hello, today we're going to talk about crypto gaming tokens. We're going to focus on three, that being IMX, Gala, and GFAL. And these are the three that are most often talked on my channel. We're going to talk about their real state of things, and we're also going to talk about their potential and what games they've actually made. Let's start with my favorite, IMX. I think this is probably the best gaming coin out there right now. The total supply of 2 billion. The circulating supply of 1.169 billion, which means 58.49% of the coins are actually out there. Decent volume, 113 million, and a market cap of 716 million, fully diluted of $1.224 billion. And I think this is something that can 10 or 20x if things actually go right. Now, I do think they have a good chance of being the number one coin, mainly because Gods Unchained, I think of all the crypto games, it might actually be the most popular one, and it does actually lend itself to NFT play. So there's room for making money in that play. And I know like when I've logged on to Gods Unchained, I don't really, at least when I logged on a year or two ago, I didn't have any trouble finding games. And I don't think people really have trouble finding games as well. And the thing is, like, they're making more games and there's going to be more releases. Plus, they've already got a popular game and they have kind of like a deal or a partnership with Unity. They're building games on Ethereum Layer 2. They are in Ethereum Layer 2 itself. And I do actually think Layer 2 Ethereum is actually going to be pretty big in the next bull run. So overall, I actually do think IMX is the best coin out there. Now, in terms of potential, maybe like 20x. I hesitate to put them above like a $20 billion market cap, even in the next bull run. It could definitely go higher if you look at the market caps and they have a really successful game. But I have not seen any crypto gaming company make a very, very successful game yet. Although Gods Unchained does have the base, I don't really see any big RPGs. Now, they are partnered with a lot of the other game development studios, so it is possible, and having Unity in their back pocket definitely does help IMX because Unity is big game development software, obviously. But at this point right now, I think they are going to kind of like ride on Gods Unchained. And while that has potential, like I said, I hesitate to put it above $20 billion because a $20 billion market cap, even in the next bull run, would probably put it in the top, 20 or 30, which is not too much higher than where they are now. But like a $20 billion market cap in the next bull run actually would probably put it in the top 20, which means it's got a while to go before then. I mean, it could definitely reach 30, 40, 50 billion if they make a really successful game, but they have to prove a little bit more to me. In terms of their tokenomics, more than half their coins being out, I think out of the three, they're actually the best in terms of like how dumping could actually happen. And because most of the coins are out, a lot of the big releases have already been done. Yes, if you look at their price graph, they are suffering like every other coin, but I do think they will have a revival. 61 cents, I'm looking at, 10, maybe like $15 for this coin at the peak of the bull run. And maybe you should look at some of their coins for their games as well, especially Gods Unchained, because I do think that could actually rise to be pretty big. I think like Gods Unchained is essentially like a light form of Magic the Gathering, and we all know how popular Magic is. I think like the same developer that did it for Wizards of the Coast is kind of working with that team, and I do find the game to be fun. It's one of the few games that I've played for more than a day or two on the server, and I do actually find it to be fairly enjoyable. So IMX wise, like if you're into the gaming, I think you're going to want some IMX. I think there's like stability in that project. They have a decently popular game and they have a lot to grow in the next bull run. Let's actually look at Gala now. Gala is the one I've been talking about the longest, and its price is basically just dropped through the floor at this point, and it continues to actually go down. Now, Gala, in terms of circulating supply, they have 24 billion out, and their max supply is 50 billion. So about 48.7% of the supply is out, almost as much as IMX, not quite. So like it's still better than a lot of newer coins out there, but Gala is, I think, a slightly older project. Although I can't say they've actually been through a full bull run yet, as their graph only really goes back to the end of 2020. And we all know the last bull market started more like in the middle of 2020. Yes, they caught the main part of the bull run in 2021, but we have to go through another cycle to see where they're at. And in this time 4 years ago, I mean, they didn't exist this time 4 years ago, but like they started existing in December of 2020, and that price had like 0.00023. So if you bought it at the very, very beginning and you held it until now, you'd still be up like, 50x, which isn't actually too bad. Gala also has spider tanks. They're trying to get a professional scene for that game, and they're developing like a dozen games, which they'll release in their own timeline in the next year or two. Now, the problem with Gala is why I wouldn't actually buy Gala right now. I would actually wait, is because their CEOs are suing each other, or their founders are suing each other. One founder, well, they're both accusing each other of fraud. They're suing each other, trying to get each other removed from like actually like taking of they're trying to get each other removed from the project and the administrative board. And one of the founders is suing the other founder for that plus $750 million. That's just not a good look on your project. If the founders are actually fighting, if your bosses are fighting, that definitely has something to do with company morale. And it also has to do with like the development, like in the future, because, like, if they're really both like basically using funds of the company for their own personal costs, obviously like they're laundering the company's money, and the company's not going to be able to fund the projects for too long. If they're just like bad mouthing each other, like that's just kind of like a dysfunctional organization if the people at the top are kind of dysfunctional as well. So right now, like up until their like founders decided to fight each other in lawsuits and like litigation, I would actually say that Gala was actually a buy, because I thought their games were actually pretty good, especially Spider Tanks, especially with them trying to get a professional scene for Spider Tanks. And I thought they had like a lot of development foreground. Yes, one of their founders did actually say that like the investors may not matter and they're idiots, but like I think a lot of founders have actually kind of insinuated that. And I don't really mind that as much, but the two founders actually actively fighting each other in litigious lawsuits, and one of them suing the other for $750 million, and both of them accusing each other of laundering millions of dollars worth of the company's funds. That should make any investor nervous, because if any of that stuff is true, and I have a feeling that some of it's actually true, that could definitely be bad for the company. They could face lawsuits from investors as well. And that's really not something you want to be a part of. Just that fear actually would keep me out of Gala right now. Otherwise, if it wasn't for that, they would be a pretty good project. But since they do have that really big flag, I would go for IMX or maybe G-FAL right now. G-FAL is the smallest one of the coins, which means it probably has the most potential. G-FAL means games for a living, if you guys didn't know, and they do actually have 4 games. They have Elemental Raiders, Diamond Dreams, Jump Pump, and Soccer Legends. And they've only actually been around since March of this year. They've actually grown up a lot in terms of price. They started from 1 cent and now they're at 2.7 cents. I guess their games have gotten them a little bit of popularity. They have like team members that were like big parts of other development studios. However, their coin release schedule is probably the worst of the 3. There's only 715 million G-FAL out. The total supply is 10 billion, which means only 7.16% of their coins are out. There's going to be a lot more distributions and releases for G-FAL than there will be for IMX and Gala. So you might see a lot more dilution in this coin than the other coins. Also, the volume for 24 hours is also much smaller than those coins at $479,000. I'm a little bit careful on any coin that has volume below $1 million. The main market they trade on is PancakeSwap. They also have BitGet, MEXC, and Uniswap. So we'll have to see what happens when they actually get a bigger exchange to actually list them. I suspect that you could buy right now for that pump if Binance or possibly Coinbase actually lists them. They are on BNB chain, so I don't think Coinbase would actually list them that fast. Of course, like Binance should list them sooner or later. And the thing is, like, they do have talented developers, so they do have a lot of potential for the future. The fully diluted market cap, even if all the coins were actually released, is only $270 million, and the market cap right now is only $19 million. So in terms of growth potential, both right now and their fully diluted potential, they actually have more potential than either IMX or Gala. But in terms, I would place them second of the two companies, because I do actually think IMX has a more established game right now, And with these smaller coins, it's really hard to predict where they'll actually go. They have a lot of potential, but there's a lot of pitfalls. But if they hold through, they could possibly have the highest potential right now. So right now, if you were asking me like which of these coins I would prefer, IMX would be my first choice, G-FAL would be my second choice, and Gala would be my last choice. Only mainly because their founders are actually fighting each other, and I can't really endorse a coin where that's actually happening. So that's my review on the 3 coins. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button, and I will be back with more news later.